Next job on Friday.
Are you doing?
Statements. Rashawn. Rashawn, here. I saw it yesterday. You did. Rashawn, my head, she don't even know this way.
I will go ahead and call this meeting to order at it is 7:01 p.m.
Recording in progress.
If we can start with a moment of silence. If we can stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just as a reminder, if you happen to have a cell phone on you, please make sure that it is silent or off. City Clerk Domingo, you'll take roll call for us, please.
Councilmember Williams,
Present.
Reed,
Here.
Jackson,
Here.
Waller,
Here.
Davis,
Here.
French, and Mayor Snyder.
Here. As some of you can see, we do have some dignitaries with us, this evening. And so I'm going to ask that we amend our agenda to include them. So one, we do have Representative Jim Hadsma. We have County Prosecutor Dave Gilbert. And then we also have Lauren Lewandowski, if I'm saying that correctly, who is with the Calhoun County Health Department. So if we can pass the agenda to include them as part of our presentations. Do I have a motion to approve?
So
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, so we will start off with Andy Campbell, who is here from Baker Tilly, to do an overview for us for our water systems improvement project.
Hello, everybody, Council Mayor. My name is Andy Campbell with Baker Tilly. We were hired through the RFP process to work with the city on the upcoming water project and everything that goes along with it. So we are the financial advisor on the project, and then Tom Poulos from Miller Canfield is the bond attorney. And along with your engineers at Whiteman, we will be completing the project requirements and all the various aspects of it. I'm just gonna give you kind of an overview. If you have any questions, please stop me. But tonight is really just to give you a baseline overview of everything on the project and in terms of the financials that came down. You have a very complicated situation because of how the SRF funding came to be, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the bond anticipation note that was recently issued to help fund the project. Kind of give you an overview of timing and expectations, and then take questions and kind of give you an overall process from here. So just as a review, the city did apply with the help of Whiteman for $19.2 million of funding. This is for the main water project that is anticipated to be, the funding will be hopefully all secured by the end of August. That's the plan so far. We're still working on one piece of the funding that we'll talk about in a second. Then really construction is anticipated. I would think, this is really Whiteman's game, but it's really gonna be 2025 and 2026 most likely. As part of the SRF proposal, the city did accept a grant of $8,986,240. There is a bond, so it's essentially a loan, but it goes by the term of bond in the state revolving fund world. So the state will be loaning you $1,146,890. You will get an additional write-off on that loan, which is it's another term for grant essentially, of $613,761. There is a loan to be repaid to the state of Michigan upon closing and acceptance by council to move forward with the project. We'll talk about timing there in a second, of $533,129. And then there is some other aspects of the funding we'll talk about in a second here, but SRF did give you a partial agreement. So they did not fund the full project, so you applied again for 19.2 million. The state is going to fund approximately 10.1 million of that. There is a little over $9 million of unfunded costs in the project. We do hope that the plan right now is to secure that funding through USDA Rural Development, which is a loan/bond, same term in our world, and grant program as well. Right now, I will say it is looking like we did receive positive feedback from the representative at USDA that they would most likely, obviously upon getting through all the red tape and requirements from the federal government, it looks like they will be able to secure the funding for you, at least that's what the indication is right now. It most likely will not be grant, but it will be a loan most likely that will have to be paid back as part of this project as well. And tonight, I'm just gonna kind of give you an overview of the financials, and again, this is just to give you a baseline, and you can ping questions off of me. Right now, the process is going to be that we're just starting work on the rate study, so I don't know the rate impact tonight. I can give you estimated like loan dollar amounts, and you have that in your packet of what these loans could potentially cost in terms of yearly payments. But we are still working on the rate impact to ratepayers, although I'm hoping that Whiteman gave you a little bit of a preview at some point when applications went in for the project, but just kind of here to talk about the overall aspects tonight and how we move forward from here. In your packet, hopefully, does it go up on the screen here, or does it, okay,
We do have it in our text.
you have these, is it color coded?
No.
No, okay,
Yeah, it's,
no color code?
no color.
Okay,
it's just-
all right, no problem, I'll just make sure to kind of talk through it, so. So on the first page, it says estimated water project scenarios at the very top. This is just a very preliminary look, so we help you on all the financials part of the water project, so we help you with the financials related to issuing debt and paying back the debt, and then we also help you with structuring rates and making sure that your rates are in place to pay for the debt that's secured by water revenues. At the very top, you'll kind of see just, again, this is just a baseline overview of what we're seeing as we come into the project. We have not worked with the city before. We work with many of the communities around you, and just as a background, we work with about 250 or so communities in the state. This is the first time working with the city, so we're coming in fresh, right, and just gonna walk through some of the things that we're seeing very preliminarily. At the very top, you will see there's a breakdown of what we see and kind of in the rate revenues minus expenses. Some of the debt has recently fallen off. You do have a good net operating revenue right now, so I'm sure that was part of the plan of this project all along, but right now the net operating revenue looks to be pretty good. And the hope is that we can kind of fit in this project under the current net revenue. Obviously, I can't guarantee that there won't be any rate impact or anything, but that's, I'm sure, the primary goal from the city from the start was to get grant funds and kind of work this project into the current cash flow. Preliminarily, it is looking positive that at least right now, again, you can't hold me this completely, but right now we are not seeing a massive rate impact needed for the project. In the 2024 project breakdown, so they're a little bit farther down here, there's those numbers that I was talking about. Ultimately, you have a little under $9 million of grant. You have an additional principal forgiveness of $613,000. So the state is giving you approximately $9.6 million of grant money in the end. I will say, just as an FYI, this is a very positive deal for the city in my eyes from what we see from other clients getting. And these deals are done this year. So this is the last year. It's a good thing that you applied this year. because the ARPA money is all gone this year. And the state revolving fund kind of goes back to what it did before, which is like 10 to 20% of grant. And you're getting, ultimately, they're only funding 10 million, but they're basically giving you 90 or so % grant from what the part of the project that they are funding. So, it's a very good deal in terms of the fitting this into your current rates and obviously only having to pay back $533,000 to the state of the total 10 million or so that they're funding. Down below, you'll see, the state does offer 20, 30, and 40-year loan commitments. For your community, no matter the term, it will be at 2% interest rate. So you can see kind of the scenarios that are laid out in the middle of the page here. That's the state revolving fund portion that needs to be paid back of $533,129. Sidebar on that real quick, these are still estimates. Bidding takes place from late May to late June of this year. So Whiteman will be going out with the construction bids. It is competitively bid. It has to be competitively bid per the state revolving fund requirements. They'll be going out sometime late May. You'll get the construction bids in late June. Ultimately, all of this will come back for approval and whether or not you move forward with the project ultimately at your first, unless you do a special, it'll be your first meeting in July or somewhere around there, depending on if you do a special meeting or if you do it at your July meeting. But these numbers will be ultimately finalized in July. So these are still estimates right now. I will say just from experience, we'll be talking through more of this, obviously with Haley and working through this with the city administration, and obviously council as well eventually. Construction bids, I know Whiteman does a very good job, but construction bids have come in over a lot. It's very difficult to peg the market right now and with inflation and stuff, so there's going to be discussions about what happens if bids come in over, what happens if bids come in under. That stuff will come later on, but Whiteman will help through those projects and processes if something has to be cut or what happens if bids do come in high. If bids come in right on the dollar amount that we're talking about, so we're gonna go back to, this is the exact amount that we're hoping that they come in at. If they come in at the amount that you applied for and received from state revolving fund, you have to pay back the $533,129. Again, it will be at 2% interest rate for any term. So you can choose a 20, you can choose a 30, you can choose a 40-year term. It's city option. It's just up to you on how you fit in that payment into your budget. I will say, obviously it's not my call, but we will be working through this with council, obviously when bids come in with exact dollar amounts. But you can see here in these highlighted numbers here, the difference in payment when you're only paying back $533,000 and change is not that great. We will be talking with the city about making sure this fits into your cash flow and how it affects rates, if it does affect rates and such, but the 20-year loan is for $33,000 a year. If you stretch it to 40 years, the payments go down to $20,000 a year, but now you have 40 years of payments instead of 20 years of payments. Ultimately, this is going to come down into a couple different questions. Usually, communities want to pay off debt as quickly as possible. So if we can do the 20-year loan, we'll most likely lean towards the 20-year loan. Obviously, the other question that we have to answer though is that we don't necessarily want to drive rates up if just to do a 20-year loan. So that will be the checks that we'll kind of play with and make sure that when we complete the financials and complete the rate study, that we work those things together, that we talk through the different options, how it impacts rates, knowing that we want to pay down debt as quickly as we can, but we have to be reasonable in doing so. The other portion of this project that I talked about, and again, if you have any questions, please, I don't need to talk the whole time here, but the other portion is this bottom tag here that is still in process of trying to secure the funding. Whiteman is currently working on the federal requirements to get through their application process. Ultimately, if this works out, and we have every indication that it is working out so far, Obviously, we can't guarantee it until we get their commitment, but USDA Rural Development is a federal program. This, and the city is going after the, other part of the funding through that program. So as of right now, the city is applying for the other $9 million, $9,066,870 that was not funded by the state in your ask for the project. And we're trying to go to USD Rural Development to get that. Ultimately, why, there's a couple different reasons. We do have a backstop in place. If we cannot get that funding from USDA, you can borrow it on what we call the open market. So a bank or a broker will give you that money. Obviously, if you comply with their credit terms and such, but, USD Rural Development, just like the state revolving fund, is a heavily subsidized program. They give you a much better interest rate, much better terms. And USDA, although I will not count on it right now, there is the ability to get grant potentially. Can't guarantee it, but, that's why we're going after USDA. So it's a federal program, there's red tape, there's hoops we gotta jump through. But ultimately, you can see at the bottom, the current interest rate for your community is 2.25% for USDA, so a little bit higher than state revolving fund, but still a very good interest rate. Just to give you an idea, most likely, so actually, real quick before I say that, that payment is $425,000 a year. So ultimately, if you approve everything with the project and you finance all the 19.2 million, and we get the $10.1 million from the state and the $9 million in change from the feds, you're gonna have a debt payment between 20 to 33,000 to pay back to the state, and you have a debt payment of $425,000 per year to pay back to USD Rural Development. The goal, just as I talked about, we still have to verify this, but the goal is that those two numbers will fit in your current cash flow. That's what is very preliminarily, that's why I very caution this so much, but that's the goal, is that it will fit within the current cash flow and we can finance the project as is. Ultimately, that is one of the big reasons why we're trying to get the money from USDA. If we go to the open market, you have to do the debt at 30 years or less, which ultimately means that your payments will go higher. The interest rate at 30 years, comfortably, you're probably just under 5%. So you go from a 40-year loan, although it's not always great to go to stretch it out, but just in terms of the cash flow, paying a 40-year loan at 2.25% will most likely fit into your current cash flow. If you have to slam that into a 30-year debt at just under 5%, then you're talking about rate increases and such that may not be the best option for your community. So that's why we're ultimately going after these two funding sources. You got a great deal from the state in terms of them giving you a lot of grant money in the end. We're trying to leverage that and go to the feds to get more grant money and make sure that it fits within your current budget. If there's no question on the water side, I do want to talk about, there's another portion here and then I'll take a breath, but the road portion on the second page, this is just to give you, there is another piece of this project that you have to fund. This will ultimately come from general fund and or street money. This is really just very preliminary stages of planning for that. So we're gonna be talking to the city council, Haley, making sure that this fits into your budget, but we wanted to give you very preliminary numbers on, there's a road portion of this project that needs to be funded that can't be funded through the water fund. It's estimated right now to be 3.5 million. You can see that there's estimated payments for 15 to 30 year bond issue, AKA loan, depending on which option you choose. Make sure I didn't miss anything. So just to reiterate on the timing, we will be talking with administration here in the next couple months as we complete the rate study, making sure that all this works out on the water side. USDA, the hope is that you will get your commitment from USDA. I believe we talked about around May. So the goal would be that your rate study and the commitment from USDA would be completed hopefully in April to May timeframe. You'd have that information, going into bidding, which happens at the end of May. That's ultimately the goal, although we can't control the USDA aspect of this too much, but you'll have that going into the state revolving fund bidding in May. You'll get bids back at the end of June. You council will make the ultimate decisions on the full project in July. The state revolving fund closes at the end of August. Project construction, most likely, it depends on what your contractor's availability is, but most likely will be either very late 24 or early 2025 start, depending on, who, like, which contractor wins and what they want to do, but. Questions?
Yeah, Councilwoman Davis.
No, and this may not be logical at all, but in terms of the 30 or 40-year payment, is that a set in stone kind of agreement? Is it possible to get 40 years and pay it off early?
Very good question. So I missed that, so thank you for bringing that up. The state does not allow prepayment. So when the decision does not get made until after, so that on the state revolving fund loan, we obviously have assumptions going into bidding on, like, this is where we're probably gonna pick the 20, or we're probably gonna pick the 30 years or whatever. We kind of talked through that, making sure that we have a plan going into bidding. The final decision is made at that July meeting. So that July meeting is gonna have a lot of stuff. This is why some communities choose to do it at a special, it depends on how your community operates, but you're gonna have construction bid contracts, you're gonna have state revolving fund resolutions, you're gonna have bond resolutions, you're gonna have to pick the term, we're gonna have to make sure that the user rates comply with the paying back the loan, which really, the state revolving fund portion is such a small portion, that won't be an issue, but and then with the term, it is locked in for good. So I will say the only way that you can get out of it is if you have some legal requirement that you have to, like, you sell the system essentially, or something where you privatize your system and they can't take on your debt or something, but if you choose a 30-year commitment, it's a 30-year commitment forever. So, good question.
Councilman Williams.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay, is this the standard way in which funding a project like this is handled? And what I'm asking and saying that is, meaning complying for the funding without knowing the impact to the population, people whose water bills may potentially end up going higher than what they already are.
So yes, the state revolving fund, I will say, like, Whiteman at some point did have to have a public hearing on this in order to apply for the state revolving fund program. And at that public hearing, you do have to say, this is the estimated rate impact. It's just a very big estimate. So there was public notification at some point, and it typically would have been at your April, let's see, the meeting dates here. So it would have been April 2023 meeting before you submitted the application. That's part of the state revolving fund program. It usually is in April when they get all that finished up. So Whiteman would have done a presentation. There would have been a notice of basically saying, like, this is the potential rate impact if we do get funding. It is very typical, though, that communities do not know the end answer because you're waiting on a variable of grant that could be anywhere from 0 to 100%. So you were lucky enough to get 90 some percent or so. So it depends on how the community, like how you operate as a community, but yes, it's very typical because there was a lot of grant money. Your community basically hit all the check marks to get as much grant money as you're allowed to get. And you're kind of just in a position where you're gonna apply for the project, and until you know this is the deal, you're not gonna know the rate impact for the most part, so.
All right. Thank you.
Councilmember Williams, if I can just add, so back in 2022, when Whiteman presented the preliminary engineering report, this project was designed with the anticipation of just strictly USDA loan funds. So we did have to do a substantial rate increase at the beginning of 2023. That was based off of, only utilizing USDA funding. So we, since we were able to apply for, the revolving fund through the state, we've actually, as Andy said, we've gotten a great deal by getting a significant amount of grant. Because right now, when we initially started this project, we weren't anticipating receiving that grant dollars.
Thank you. And thank you for saying that as well, because now I see the correlation exactly where it lands. The thing that kind of got me on the edge is, on the low end, you could be looking at $667,000 paying back annually, or on the high end, looking at $781,000, looking to pay that back annually. And, that was also factoring in the road construction. Now, we may look at a different way to finance the road construction. I'm not sure if, like, where we're at as far as that goes, but I'm a little leery, water bills are high. Want to make sure that we're not adding any additional burden on the taxpayers. So,
If I can, the road portion cannot come out of water revenues.
Right.
So, you're correct in saying like that is the potential debt load that you're looking at in total. On the high end, you're looking at like 400, again, this is on estimate, so I gotta be careful about that, but like $458,000 per year from water revenues, which again, very preliminarily looks to be within your water plan, which Haley had mentioned, like you did increase rates in anticipation of this project. But yes, the other portion, you do have to come up, it will not be put on water bills, but you still as a city have to pay that, and it's gonna come from taxes. So, yeah, there's still a portion that has to be coming out of your other funds. But it depends on how you see it. I mean, it's one pocket or the other for most residents. Most residents are on your water system. They're paying their water bill out of this pocket and their taxes out of that pocket. In essence, yes, it will be 600 and some thousand to 700 and some thousand per year of total debt payments.
I just want to highlight, without that rate increase, we were operating at a deficit each year within our water fund. We won't be able to do any of these capital improvement projects.
Right.
Because any improvements, they're enterprise funds, meaning the rates or fees that we charge have to go towards the day-to-day costs, any capital improvements, and things like that. So without doing that rate increase, we would not be in the position that we are to even take advantage of this grant funding.
right, now, the other revenue here, above that 533, was that a grant, or that wasn't just from?
That is where,
Enterprise fund, right?
that is water, other revenues. So that's, I will say this is an area I'm not too schooled with right now because this is directed from your audit.
Right,
So that's other revenue that's from your audit, and it looks to be recurring revenue, so typically, I will say, it depends on your community, but typically that could be penalties and interest, it could be investments on your balances, it could be water tower rental fees for if you have cell phone companies paying you to use the water tower. There's various aspects of that, but that's an audit number that was pretty constant.
okay. So this 533, this is the first year where we had revenues above, where we actually had positive revenue?
I would say it's probably pulled, well, we haven't had our 2023 audit yet, so, it's probably pulled, but it has to be 2022.
That was pulled from your budget, I believe, for your 23 budget.
So yeah, so that does factor in that rate increase,
Okay.
because they went into effect for.
So where's the resumption to full homeowners bill? Is that then or now?
That is your current typical homeowner's bill. Yep, so, just as a very, I mean, I will say, I gotta give you the disclaimer here, but, every community has different assumptions on like, if your system is a lot different than like Springfield, who we work with, or Jackson. There's a lot of different variables, but I do think it is reasonable because your ratepayers don't see that. They don't care about the differences between your system and Jackson's system. They wanna know how much they gotta pay you guys for water service. $92 per quarter does put you in the low category from what we see as a typical water rate. So, again, we work with many, many communities all across the state. Typically for a quarter, the average that we see for the clients that we work with is 135. So, 135 is like the average that we look at is, this is your average water bill. If you're below that, you're in the low category. You're obviously well below that at $92 per quarter. I will say that the one thing you have to be very careful about is like how good a shape your system is in, and like, is the 92 getting you what you need to operate your system effectively? And that's the answer we're gonna be looking at, and to make sure that that's the correct rates, and we're charging people fairly and equitably, and that this is going to fund the projects that we need to fund. But as a good starting point, you are in the low rate category for water bill.
And you said 92 per quarter?
Correct. That's just the water side.
That's how I was.
Remember, that doesn't include sewer, so.
All right.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Campbell? All right.
All right.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, thank you.
All right, next, if we can have Representative Jim Haslam come up.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Snyder. Thank you, City Council. Thank you, City Manager Schneider, Clerk Domingo, and Council Harkness. I'm Jim Hatzma. I will tell you that right now, first part of the year, there's been inertia in the Michigan House. The reason for that is because there's a 54-54 tie, Democrats to Republicans in the Michigan House. The reason that tie exists, because that's not how it's set up, is because two members of the Democratic caucus ran for mayor of Warren and Westland last year, and they succeeded in November. So they resigned from the House in November 2023. There were special primary elections in those state house districts in Warren and Westland last Tuesday. Republican and Democratic candidates emerged. There's a special election in those districts on April 16, I believe. It's about a month later than ordinarily it's been. This has happened before at least twice since I've been in the House, starting in 2019, and special elections in 2020 and 2021 were called in January and March respectively. I think the issue, although I don't know for sure, is because of the early voting rules and how there's more time needed than historically was the case. We may have something that happens tomorrow. It's a good test balloon. There's a Republican member and I who have a couple Chromebook bills that are pending in the House. They've already made it out of committee with unanimity and support, but we'll find out if we get any vote on those tomorrow, because when we tried votes so far, a couple weeks ago, there was a state Senate Republican sponsored bill that came to us, and we deadlocked at 52-52. There were two members absent from each of the delegations. So that doesn't promise that we're going to do very well. Oddly, the Democrats all voted in support of that Republican sponsored bill in the Senate, and the Republicans all voted against it. I'm hopeful again tomorrow we'll have a couple bills, including one of mine, and a rarefied, complicated set of bills that will get passed. But we will be continuing to do committee hearings. It hasn't been as robust as I would have expected at the first of the year. Many committees are challenged by attendance issues. While we're not in session, it's difficult to get some of our members from both sides of the aisle to come in and do committee hearings when there's not session. So I think it's going to be a period when we're just going to have to continue to be patient as this general election plays out, and then we have a full complement of House members starting in mid-April 2024. Or take any questions if anyone has any. Thank you for allowing me to come and participate. My new wife and I are gonna go over to Blues at the Bowl after we hear a bit more of the city council. Thank you.
We appreciate you coming.
Yes,
Thank you.
enjoy, thank you.
Next, I'd like to call up County Prosecutor Dave Gilbert.
Good evening, and happy new year to all of you. I try to come see you at least once a year, let you know what's going on in the prosecutor's office and see if you guys have any questions for me. You might recall in 2021, we had COVID. We also did a time study for the prosecutor's office to determine, because I was complaining about enough attorneys. Turns out we didn't have enough attorneys. We had 13 attorneys. They said we needed 13 more. The county was nice enough to give us 2. Defender's office has a lot more than we do. All they do is criminal defense, we do appeals, we do juvenile abuse, neglect, we do juvenile criminal law, we do a lot of different things in our office. But we are making good use of those 2 attorneys. Unfortunately, just like the defender's office, we can't find attorneys. Nobody wants to be a prosecutor. Defense attorney, criminal law doesn't pay that well. And there's a lot more money in corporate law and other forms of law, but we're still doing pretty well. If you think about it, back in COVID, we really got backed up by about 18 months with cases. We are catching up on those cases. The courts are really working hard to get caught up. We still have maybe 30 homicide cases pending. That seems like a lot, but we have about 15 or 16 homicides every year. Back last time they actually did a state study that I'm aware of was in 2017, and 53% of the homicide cases in the state of Michigan were actually solved. Calhoun County, the last 2 years, 90% of them solved. So we're doing much better than the state of Michigan. The federal average is 63%. So we are doing well. We've got some really excellent police departments and police officers in the county, and we're really happy to work with them because they are doing an excellent job. Guys, have any questions for me? I'm here. Anybody?
Do we have any questions right now for our County Prosecutor?
No, well, it's good to see you all.
Yes, thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll be sticking around.
Next, I'd like to call up Lauren Lewandowski.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Thank you for making the amendment to the agenda tonight for this. I wanted to bring it to this for the local paraphernalia ordinance that is in place in Albion. At the health department, we have a syringe service program called Project Access. It serves folks who suffer from substance use disorder. So for those of you who aren't familiar with what a syringe service program or SSP is, it allows our health department staff to meet with folks who suffer from a substance use disorder. And we are able to give them clean supplies so that we can reduce the transmission of both HIV and hepatitis C in Calhoun County. Within Calhoun County, we tend to be historically for the last 10 years to be within the top 10 counties across the state of Michigan in terms of opioid overdose rates within Calhoun County. There is a burden within Albion especially. We started to see an uptick in opioid overdose related fatalities around 2018, especially those associated with fentanyl. The cost associated with treating an individual with HIV and hepatitis C is around $510,000. And so SSPs historically have demonstrated the ability to reduce those infections by around 55%. The program itself, it will meet with individuals who suffer from a substance use disorder, and they're able to offer them clean supplies, but there's also a lot of other services that we offer. So we can connect people with recovery services such as medicated assisted treatment. Also, we can facilitate transport to different recovery services. We've done that quite frequently. As it stands within the program now, we've seen over 200 people. We currently only are able to operate in the city of Battle Creek with the different ordinances that are in place. And around 15 people have entered recovery from our program, which is really great. We've also had just over 23,000 syringes returned to us, which is huge. That's an impact across the board for everyone in our community because it reduces the number of potential needle stick injuries that both our community members, our public law enforcement officers might encounter out when they're out in the community. So I wanted to bring attention to the local ordinance and have a discussion about that tonight so that we can potentially see if Project Access is something that could come to Albion and serve some of the residents here as well. And I'm also happy to take any questions.
Do we have any questions?
Yes,
Councilwoman Davis?
what would the recovery service look like? And would it be a house or facility or what?
We don't operate the recovery services directly, we refer people to them, so one of the ways that, when we have a participant who comes into us and they decide that I'm at a point in my journey where I should go and engage recovery services, we contact whatever one they may be specifically interested in, and then we can get them in the door. So sometimes we have to coordinate that on their behalf, which our staff does. And then in addition to that, we also make referrals to the health department itself for our hepatitis C treatment, since we're one of the only hepatitis C treatment providers in the entire county.
Councilman Williams?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Does your office, facilitate resources that may come out and speak, like in the school systems, speaking to the youth as early, deterrent systems possibly?
In terms of prevention programming, we haven't quite dipped our toe in that at the health department. I do know that the Substance Abuse Council in both, here in Albion, I know Harry Bonner's group does a lot of really great work on that. And then we also have our Substance Abuse Council that's located in Battle Creek that focuses on the prevention side of things.
So Lauren, you would need us to pass a resolution to allow this to happen here in Albion, correct?
Correct.
No.
No.
Or Council?
No, it would require the amendment of our existing paraphernalia ordinance.
Okay. Existing ordinance.
So an amendment for the next meeting, or do you have the amendment now?
No, we would have to have a discussion about what that amendment would look like, then we'd have to go through our 2 reading process.
Okay. All right, so you gave us some homework. We appreciate you doing it.
Thank you.
All right, public comments. If there's anybody in the gallery that would like to state and address council in regards to a specific agenda item, you may do so at this time. Just come forward, give us your name and address, and 3 minutes is yours.
Hi, Mayor, Council, City Attorney, and City Manager. I'm here to speak on behalf and strongly encourage you to appoint Mr. Frost to the Planning Commission. The Frost are a relatively new family here in Albion, and since they've arrived, they have enthusiastically inserted themselves and joined in community activities, a whole variety of them. They're remarkable individuals. I have not seen Mr. Frost's application. I'm not sure what he chose to share with you, but he has a pretty distinguished career in historic restoration, which would be a great thing, that expertise to have on our planning commission. So I strongly encourage you to approve his appointment. He'd be a great addition to that committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Al Smith, 1219 Adams Street. I will mirror what former Mayor Atchison said about Mr. Frost. Only to add that he is from a very old Albion family. He has newly returned to Albion, but his family was probably one of the original founders of Albion. So he would be a great addition. If you look through your packets, I'm sure you will see that all the people who have applied are very, very qualified. And there is no reason that you should deny any of these appointments. Thank you.
Yeah.
Juanita Solis-Quitter, 1211 Edward Street. I echo what both men have said. I have put little stars by the people that I support, and I strongly also would like you to appoint these people to they're highly qualified in what they want to do for our community. Have involved themselves, have done things to improve the quality of life for everybody here in Albion.
Anybody else like to stand and address council? All right, thank you. In our packets, under the consent calendar items, we have the January 22nd study session minutes and the January 22nd regular session minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? In your packets as well, you have the applications for Cameron Frost for the planning commission.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yep.
I move that we vote on each nomination individually.
Support. Second. Do you need a majority vote on this? Is that correct? Attorney Harkins?
I think you can vote on them individually. I don't think you need to necessarily modify your agenda.
Okay. All right, so Cameron Frost for planning commission. Do we have comments?
I would do a motion second for each one. and we have to have individual.
Do you have a motion to approve Cameron Frost for planning commission?
So,
Support.
Any questions or comments on the application? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Davis. Yes. And Mayor Snyder.
Yes. So Cameron is here with us, so if you would like to come up and say a few words to council, you may do so at this time. And you can let us know if you prefer CJ or Cameron.
Thank you, Mayor Snyder, City Manager Snyder, ladies and gentlemen of City Council. It's an honor to be here before you tonight. This is my first time here in the council chambers, and it's quite an honor. Thank you. My given name is Canlin Jennings Frost, but please call me CJ. As Mr. Smith and Mr. Atchison have both said, my family do go back a long way here in Albion. In fact, right downstairs in the office here, just below us, there's a picture of the former mayors who have helped to build Albion and make it what it is today. You will find the second gentleman in that row is Robert Jennings Frost. That man is my great-great-grandfather. It is my intention to serve this community as my family has served this community for many, many years. It's my intention to help it to become the kind of place that we're all here and hopeful that it will become in the future. Strong, prosperous, with a strong, healthy community. I will do everything that I can to make my position meaningful and beneficial to the city and to you. And I appreciate you all having me here today. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Yes, and welcome back to Albion. Do I have a motion to approve of the application of Rebecca Soltis to the Albion District Library?
So moved.
Support. Do we have any questions or comments in regards to her application? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Davis. Yes. Williams
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. And Ms. Soltis is with us this evening. You want to come up and say a few words as well?
Also my first time on the council, so thank you very much for having me. I'm really excited to be on the library board, as a former teacher, in a kind of a rough community in terms of buildings and resources. I saw a lot of families struggling, and the library was the one place that they could go, whether it was getting food bags, clothing, a warm place to sit and do their homework, other services. Library isn't to me just about books, it's about serving the community. So I'm really looking forward to working with the current board. I think they've done a great job, thinking about the library long-term. It's been over 100 years that it's been with the community, and I know that I can support it to go for another 100 years.
Thank you. Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve of the application for Dave Atchison to the Albion Economic Development Corporation?
So,
Support.
Do we have any questions or comments in regards to Mr. Atchison's application? Councilwoman?
Thank you so much. So I just wanted to share, a concern, not of mine. I've worked with, Mr. Atchison, when he was former mayor and on a couple other boards. But I am here to, express some concerns. That was brought to my attention. There was an article that was written by Mr. Atchison, and it says, "Your ethics matter. They impact your credibility, personal integrity, the quality of our city government, and ultimately our community as a whole." It also says that God is watching and that a lack of respect, from the city council. So with that being said, there was a post on social media during, Mr. Atchison's term where a comment was made about the Black community in COVID. Which, Black community members felt that it was a lack of respect for them. So they would like to know, or can it be explained to them how they can trust that, Mr. Atchison will do the right thing when it comes to making an ethical decision. I don't know who to ask that question to, but that is a concern of the community, and I just brought it forth. We can't answer it. Can we have Mr. Atchison answer it? Is that appropriate, Colin?
I don't think there's anything wrong with having any of the potential appointees speak to either their qualifications or any questions that council might have. It'd be like a discussion on any other agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Be happy to answer whatever questions or address whatever comments you're referring to.
I just put it on the floor, but I'll put it on the floor again. There was a article in the paper, that was written by you, and it was about ethics matter.
Ethics absolutely do matter.
Okay, so, I'm just reading, please don't get mad at me, I'm just the messenger, that's it. It says, "Your ethics matter. They impact your credibility, personal integrity, the quality of our city government, and ultimately our community as a whole." You said God is watching and that, we have a lack of respect. So with that being said, during your term, there was a social media post, that was written by you or posted by you. And it was a comment about the Black community in COVID. I remember it, I'm sure you do. But the community wants to definitely know, that how can they trust you to do the right thing when it comes to making an ethical decision?
What was the social media post?
It was about.
No, what was the post? Because the post was insulting to the Black community. Please tell me what
Yes.
the post was.
So you remember it, I don't.
No, I don't remember
But
the
the
post.
community do. Okay, if you don't remember it, you just.
I mean, I
I'm not
can't.
gonna go back and forth, but I'm just bringing their concerns to you.
Okay, so I would be more than happy to respond to anything specific. But I don't know the words, I don't know what the post was, what it said. So I can't very well respond to that.
It was about COVID.
Yes, it was about COVID.
Oh, so you do remember?
I remember what it was about, but I don't remember what the words were. Okay, and so there are a lot of things that people choose to say they're offended about and whether they were offended or not. I remember a lot of things from my term as mayor. I remember a lot of accusations. I remember my wife being called a witch. I remember a lot of nasty language and things. Okay? And I would be more than happy to respond to whatever the specific language was. And I would be more than happy to have Councilman Davis, if she recalls what it was, to share if she was offended. But I don't recall what the specific language was.
I didn't get my information from Vivian, Councilmember Davis. It was just a public, concern. So if you don't remember, that's
I
fine.
don't remember the specific words. Okay,
I don't.
I remember the
But I know it was
context.
about Black community being in COVID, and you was wondering, just saying, you know, something of the sort about this is why, um, being in large crowds or something of the sort. I'm not very sure. But, it was just a concern for the community, that's okay.
Okay, but I absolutely stand by what I wrote in that letter to the editor that was published in the paper. Ethics absolutely do matter.
So how
I would
can they-
encourage all of you to have very ethical conduct.
So how can they be sure that you'll make an ethical decision? I guess that's.
I would say that my term as mayor, I comport myself very ethically. There were a lot of things that were said about my family and myself. There were calls to go burn down my house. A lot of things. So because some people don't like me, you can probably find anybody in this room that have people in Albion that don't like them.
Well,
Even
right
our
now,
city
we're
attorney.
talking about ethical decisions.
Well, I can tell you one thing that I never did as a member of city council, as the mayor, I never attended city boards and meetings and tried to influence the outcome of votes. I never violated state law, never violated the city ordinance. So I would say that's a pretty good testament to ethical conduct.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yeah, Councilman Williams?
Yeah, my question was, how will you ensure that, underrepresented individuals are represented in the EDC when it comes, and in terms of, land use, community development, and housing?
How will I ensure that underrepresented individuals will be represented?
Yes.
By overseeing the EDC and ensuring that those things are taken into consideration.
Thank you.
Any other questions? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Jackson,
No.
Lawler,
No.
Davis,
Yes.
Williams,
No.
Reed,
No.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. All right, next we have the reappointment of Barbara McAllister to the Board of Review.
So moved.
Support. Do we have any questions or comments in regards to this application?
Yes, I'd like to say I was on, the board of review with, Mrs. McAllister, and she is very knowledgeable. On the board for a long time, and she knows, she knows the guidelines, the rules, and of course, goes to all of the trainings, because we were just talking about there's trainings every year that must be done to keep abreast of the new developments, of the board of review, so, I think she's an excellent candidate for the board, for continuation on the board, because you've been on for a while. Yes.
City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Lawler,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Ms. McAllister, would you like to stand and address council? You sure can.
I'm
done it for quite a few years now, and I enjoy doing it. And I look forward to continue serving my community again and continue on. Thank you.
We appreciate your service. Thank you.
Thank you for your service. Thank you.
All right, next is my appointment. We do have a meeting coming up in March that needs to be held. Right now, we don't have enough to have quorum, so I've been asked to have a seat. Of course, I would gladly give it to anybody else who would want to apply, but knowing how important this role is, you know, I will definitely serve if needed. So, Attorney Harkness?
Just so you and council are aware, our charter states that the mayor serves on the board of review by virtue of the position unless you're unable to do so.
It's not to vote.
So we don't have to vote on this?
No.
No, you have, so here's the, so here's the funny thing. Technically, no member of council can serve on the board of review under the Incompatible Offices Act unless the council specifically appoints those members. So there's an attorney general opinion that says if you're a city under population of 25,000, you can, if your charter says that you can, and if the council specifically appoints you. So our charter says the mayor serves unless she's unable to, which means you appoint the mayor unless for some reason she's unable to, in which case then another member of council could be appointed. But we have to vote on it because of this.
Under 25.
Now,
I thought we did.
by statute, she was already supposed to be serving previously?
Not unless by our charter, she's appointed, but it can't happen under the Incompatible Offices Act unless council specifically appoints her. Don't ask me what the logic behind that is. That's just what our former attorney general said.
But that's the crossroads that we're currently.
Right, so our charter says we have 4 taxpayers that have the same qualifications for holding elective office and the mayor. If the mayor is unable to serve, another member of council can serve.
Got it.
So we do have to vote.
Yes.
Any other questions? Yep, Councilman Lawler.
Thank you so much. So there is a concern. There is a bill for the less fortunate bill that, this is not me. That is it's an intimidation, for you to be on the board of review for them. Why, I do not know, but, I'm just bringing the concern.
Again, like I said, I'd be happy to, if somebody in the public, within the community would like to apply, I'd be glad to. But I'm a lifelong resident, I'm a taxpayer. I mean, I don't know what other qualification.
You're required to unless you're unable to.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
so I guess I'm required to, but you still have to vote, so let's go through the process of voting. City Clerk Domingo.
Councilmember Davis. Yes. Williams,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Abstain.
Before we move on, I was on the board of review and then I was told that I had to resign. So I did resign. So if I understand you correctly, you're saying that the mayor and a council member can be on if
Council has to formally vote to appoint you.
council has to formally vote.
It probably was the case years ago, and I'm not sure who told you that you needed to resign, but years ago, it was the case that you could not hold both, and it wasn't until 2010, the end of 2010, that the former attorney general opined that if you're a city less than 25,000, that provision of the Incompatible Offices Act won't apply if council specifically votes to appoint those council members for mayor.
I think it was 2021, 2022, when I was on the review board, but once I became a member of the council, that's when I was told I had to, must resign, so.
Well, you can seek appointment as long as council approves you.
Something to mull over.
I mean, do we have to bring it back to the board, to the council?
Also
It
for,
would have to be, you'd have to be nominated by the mayor, and council would have to approve it like any other point.
Does anyone else?
all right. Discussion, on council members attending the spring 24 conference in Lansing. At our, study session. And I didn't write down the names. Thank you. Reed, Lawler and Williams. So do I have a motion to approve of Councilman Reed, Councilman Lawler, Councilman Williams to attend the spring conference?
So move.
Support.
Do we have any questions or comments?
Is this the one that I get to go to for free?
Yes, you did, yes, because you won the
I
raffle.
won last year.
Oh.
I get to go for free.
Awesome.
Yes, you do,
Get
thank
the
you
paper
for.
too, reminding her.
Glad you remember that.
Go to the-
I'm sure City Clerk Domingo will be calling you to get that info.
Remember Reed?
Vote.
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
and Mayor Smith.
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve of the 2024 Calhoun County Parks millage allocation?
So move.
Support.
City Manager Snyder?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As shared in our study session, included in the packet is the 2023 allocation report as well as the 2024 allocation request. So our county park fund millage dollars were last year were used to hire 3 additional seasonal parks workers. And then we also utilized those funds to cover the cost for the emergency repairs to the Victory Park structure here late fall. We did split those costs with the community foundation, which they pulled funds from their Victory for Kids Fund. So for total millage expenditures for 2023, it was $17,027.51. That left us with a millage balance of $26,228.83. Our estimated allocation for this year is $27,745.91. For a total of $53,974.74. So to go along with our application to the Michigan Natural Trust Fund for the Albion River Trail Expansion 3 project, there is a local match requirement. So in our application, we did highlight our county park millage funds to be allocated towards that. So we are requesting to utilize 50,000 of those funds to go towards that project. It does leave us with a small balance, but we do have 1 more year of this millage. So 2025 is the final year unless it is renewed by the county voters. So we are just recommending approval.
Questions for City Manager Snyder? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
and Mayor Smith.
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2024-04 to approve the project agreement for the Great Lakes Fishery Trust?
So moved.
Support.
Manager Snyder?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So we did apply for grant funding through the Great Lakes Fishery Trust for the second phase of the Albion Dams project. So over the past, say, 1.5 years, a feasibility study is being completed on what to do with the 5 dams here in our community. They are finalizing that report and will be presenting that to council to make that final determination here in March. We did have an open house back, I want to say July of 2022 to share what those possible options are. We know that 3 out of the 5 options include removing some, if not all of the dams. So we have kind of started just trying to be proactive in securing grant funding to help us with that next phase of the project. So we did secure $1 million through the Eagle dams risk reduction program. And then we secured an additional $150,000 to go towards the design phase of this project. Obviously, no decisions have been made. They will be presented to council and it will be up to you all to determine which route we take. But as I stated before, 3 out of the 5 options are to remove some, if not all. One would be do nothing, which we know that's no good for anybody. Or the other one would be to make some modifications. So the grant agreement has been reviewed by the attorney's office and we are just recommending approval.
Questions or comments for City Manager Snyder? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Lawler,
Yes.
Davis. Yes. Williams,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
And Mayor Snyder.
Yes. They have a motion to approve the agreement for the water operator services.
So move.
Support.
City Manager Snyder?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So there has been some transition within our Department of Public Services. By law, we are required to have an operator in charge to oversee our water and wastewater facilities. So before you, is an agreement that with Loomis, Water Consultants LLC, R.J. Loomis. He is a former Albion employee who holds the required license that we need. So we are just recommending approval to meet the state requirements. Mr. Loomis has a wealth of knowledge. He knows our system. We have a lot of important projects coming up, as you heard earlier, at the beginning of the meeting. So we are recommending approval.
Any questions? City Manager Snyder, sorry, City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Davis. Yes. Williams,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. They have a motion to approve of the 24 EDC budget amendment of the amount of $2,750.
So move.
Support.
Ms. Zimmerman?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a simple budget amendment. This was to correct an error that was made in 2022. Some training for $2,750 that was related to Brownfield was charged to the Brownfield Fund, and we discovered it as we were working on the 24 budget and the 23 amendment, but the finance director had asked if we just wait and do a 24 amendment to the 24 budget. So this will just be allowing for that expense to be reclassified from the Brownfield Fund over to the Economic Development Fund, which is where it should have been in the first place. So no movement of cash, just the fact that the expense was misclassified, and this is just correcting that error.
Do you have any questions? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Davis. Yes. And Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve of the lease and the purchase of the new public safety vehicles?
So move.
Support.
Keep going.
As I stated earlier, the 66,000 is for the lease. That money is budgeted in this year's public safety budget. This is just to approve the actual lease of the vehicle that we need to have from council. The second one for the 5,400, and I forgot to mention this earlier, I did just get the invoice from the dealership, and it's actually only 52,000, so it's a couple $1,000s less than what they put originally. And so, like I said, we're gonna sell 2 of our current vehicles, hopefully to get at least 2/3 of that money replaced, and the remaining funds will come from forfeiture until I can find better places to get the money to pay for it, so.
You have any questions for Chief Kip?
This is nice, it's 2,000 less.
Yes,
So.
any little bit helps.
$20.
Oh, actually, I do have a question.
Councilman Williams?
Yep, Chief Kip, how do we typically pay for that?
Typically pay for,
The new vehicle?
it's budgeted every year for basically buy 1 car a year.
Right.
And so, it's money that's budgeted in public safety budget per year. And so, like I said, in 2021, we did not get a car because of COVID. The one that we put in for, they didn't manufacture it. And so we are actually a year behind currently doing that. And so that money just went back into the general fund at that point. That we didn't spend that year on a vehicle.
And then that was the reason for the lease going by.
Well, we do so when we first started doing this,
it's kind of backwards a little bit, I think, but when you're talking to the finance director, it kind of actually makes sense the way we do it, but when I first started doing this, the first year, we didn't have enough money to spend $60,000 on a car or whatever it was, and so we leased it for 3 years. Well, then the next year, we still don't have $60,000, so we lease it for 3 years. The third year, we're spending $60,000 because we're leasing 3 cars over 3 years, and so we've kind of been in that rotation now, as long as I've been chief, of buying 1 car a year, but leasing them instead of, I mean, if we went to a point where we could pay them all off, we could probably just buy a car a year and not do the lease. But in talking to the finance director, he said actually it probably saves us money leasing it, because of how we invest money, but can't really explain it to you. That's not my kind of thing.
Yeah, a lot smaller payment.
Right, smaller payment, and it doesn't, I mean, we pay a little bit of interest, but overall, we do better hanging out to our money, than we do, just buying it outright. So
I got you. Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Chief Kip?
Is the insurance more expensive for a leased vehicle for city use than it is?
No, we have a standard fund that basically covers all of our vehicles. The cars aren't the expensive part, fire trucks are the expensive part. But our fire trucks are insured for replacement costs, not for just normal damage. So if we were to lose our 1989 engine over there, we would actually get $700,000 to replace it, not the value of what it is, which is about $50,000. So.
Any other questions? Chief Kip, I'm sorry. City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Waller,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve of the DPW electrical upgrades?
Yes, so move.
Support.
Chief Deputy Kern?
Good evening, council. Good evening, mayor. As I stated earlier, this is to approve the upgrades to all of the DPW facilities with the electrical lighting, and also the fire station. In talking with one of Mr. Loomis, he remembers replacing some of this lighting that we're actually talking about replacing right now back in 2001. So it's a little bit overdue. So.
We had demonstration of the light fixtures, like already in our study session, we all saw.
The burn marks and the charring,
It's a hazard, it's a liability, so now it's just us to approve it.
Support.
Well, hold on.
No, I'm saying, I was going to say, once it's completed, we would like to see it.
We would love to have you to our facilities.
Yes.
They have been working very hard. All of the DPW employees have been working very hard. And so it'd be very nice.
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem Jackson.
Yeah, currently it wasn't a violation or OSHA violation, you don't be asking for that other bid, you already know that.
Yeah.
You do that, yeah.
There were a few OSHA violations in there.
Yeah.
We kind of saw that stuff and we're like, oh,
That's
yeah,
some serious stuff you got those, so.
it was pretty bad. I didn't want to put it all out there.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, it's bad.
All right, anything else?
Yeah, I got one question.
Yeah, Councilman Williams?
Budget wise, is this coming out the DPW budget?
So it'll be split across 5 different funds, the street department, parks, cemetery, and the water department.
So each one of the funds. paying
Yes,
for
will
that.
contribute towards covering the $65,000 cost.
Got it.
And for the fire station, we have money set aside in that, with that money just for the fire station to replace those as well.
Okay. Great.
Thank you. City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Waller,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. So we did have an item added in regards to discuss the RFP for the economic development investment. Should we got information? So Councilman Williams?
Yeah, so this isn't discussion and approval, it's just discussion?
Mhm.
Okay. there was an issue with the law firm that we had. They can't represent us, due to something on their end. So my suggestion is that we, put this on the agenda for a vote for the next one. We issue the RFP again and, see if we can get, more applications or more bids rather. That's the
Yeah,
gist of it.
yeah, I agree.
I think that everybody got the email.
Mhm,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Anything else? All right. Future agenda items. Anything, yep, Mayor Pro Tem Jackson?
Yes, Kip. The security thing.
What was that, the cameras?
Well, I apologize. I don't have a problem doing that. You Kip, you fine. I just was looking for you. So then also,
Are you looking for an update on? the-
update on that, because I know, city manager Snyder has said that something was coming, so, but I wanted to see if it was ready yet.
I think it's just a matter, they've been ordered, the security cameras. This,
The interest way.
yep,
Yes, they're on order right now.
Okay,
They have to get some right away variance from the county and state. And so that's what they're waiting on.
okay.
Councilman
The
Lawler, you
ordinance-
had your hand up?
I'm sorry, the ordinance for the fence.
Fence ordinance?
Mhm.
Anything else?
Yeah, you forgot. And,
I'm sorry.
and they're supposed to be looking at the fence ordinance. This has been quite some time.
What?
Due to, and the fence being too close to the sidewalk. So we knew that that would be a problem, not with just the one individual that had a problem. There's been a few months ago, you talked to Ian, he hasn't.
Am I going to see that?
Yes, a little bit, because it's been a while, we have to bring it back so that we can go over it again.
Okay, I'll get with the planning director. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
and May.
I'm
Welcome.
gonna chalk it up to
Yeah, that,
getting
It's okay.
one day and getting older.
It's
I'm
okay.
Making a note to myself right now.
thank you.
Councilman Lawler?
Oh, thank you so much. The Maple Grove project, can we see if we can bring the presenters back and just share a little bit of information about what's going on with it? And if you could just prepare us something to tell us how we got to this point with Maple Grove, that would be great.
yep.
Okay.
So there's actually a special ABA meeting, for the board to review and make a formal recommendation to council. Because as we started this process, I believe Attorney Harkness said, if we're going to move forward with this, both boards need to be on the same page. So they will be meeting to make up their formal recommendation to council. I have reached out to, the Affordable Housing Advisors to see if they're available to attend the 19th meeting. But yes, I will.
You said the 19th of February?
Yeah, so that's your second meeting, so
Yeah.
that's where we're planning to bring forward the ABA's recommendation to council and then for you all to take action.
So we can expect the presenters to be here on the 19th?
I've reached out, I
Okay,
can't say for sure if they able to attend.
okay. If they're not, can we ask them when they can come and just talk to the people, please? Okay, thank you.
Councilman Williams?
Yeah, I was asked about the Zoom public comments. If we could bring that back. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Usually we would look to see if somebody was online during the public comment section.
I think we looked at that because we're past the COVID state, so that,
Is that what it is? If that's what it is, and that's fine too.
yeah,
I just wasn't aware.
at least that's why that was what I thought, reason why we turned out the public comments. would be the-
You can still take public comments via Zoom. I mean, there's not a legal prohibition against doing.
Tell us, give us what that is.
So you can.
Really?
It was what ended up stopping when post COVID is they eliminated the remote participation by council members.
Right.
That got phased out because they changed legislation. So, I mean, if council wants to add public comment via Zoom, I mean, they certainly can, or they can decide not to. It's totally up to council.
do we have to do something special to have that, or we have to have something in writing, or can we just?
I think you can vote to do it, but what I would do to make it a little bit more formal is you may wanna amend your council rules. May wanna take a look at doing that if it's something you're looking at doing on a permanent basis, so that you've got something in writing as opposed to just a vote.
I had another one.
Mhm.
The grant report. I haven't seen it in a while. Can we make sure that we put it in the package?
Sure.
Please, thank you.
Yeah, Attorney Hartness.
At some point at a future meeting, when we don't have tons of stuff stacked up, and I will get with our manager about meetings that we tend to have lighter things, I'd like to start doing a couple of, I guess, refresher presentations for council during our work sessions about our Freedom of Information Act requirements and what attorney-client privilege involves and things like that. Yeah.
Anything else? All right. Moving on. Public comments. If there's anybody in the gallery that would like to stand and address the council, you may do so at this time.
Good evening, Mayor, Council.
Good evening.
I'm Tom McClure. I live at 909 Luther Drive here in Albion. I first of all want to apologize to our Councilman Jackson for my emotional outburst at the last meeting I attended. I didn't mean to come off that way to you. What got me going and emotionally charged was what I saw that night. I went home and I wrote this letter, and I wrote it to Ms. Jackson, but really I think it applies to everybody. Good evening, Council. I'm asking that you support our mayor regarding the recent resolution for censorship. After reading your bio, I find it hard to understand your actions over your words. And this I quote from you. Listen, be humble, and serve Precinct 3 and the other precinct leaders to stand for what's right and help promote change within Albion City Council and our city as we stand together in unity, believing change begins in us. To bring civility back to the city hall and be able to come to a consensus on what's best for our city. I ask that you go back and read those words again, because you haven't listened. You're not doing what's best for the city. By attacking our current mayor certainly is an example of something that's not best for the city. I do hope that most certainly are capable of bringing back the civility, and we need to do that. I close this letter with, I hope that you will soberly vote to support our mayor on December 18th, 2023. Here we are, February 5th, 2024. And I felt the same thing going down with Mr. Atchison. Now, I don't know, did you guys all have that same concern? Or did you just jump on the vote with Ms. Lawler? Ms. Lawler, you said, well, I'm only the messenger several times. I understand that. But I wondered if you had your own opinion about that.
Yes.
Okay, and if so, did you express your opinion? I don't think so. I want to tell you another thing. A concern brought forth doesn't make it so.
Al Smith, 1209 Adams Street. 7 of the 10 chairs up here have been either elected or appointed. I'm going to leave you tonight with a paraphrase of a poem from a movie, V for Vendetta. Remember, remember the 4th of November.
Anybody else in the gallery like to stand and address council? All right, city managers report.
Thank you, Mayor. So I did send out my report to you all earlier today. You have a hard copy at your desk and it will be published for the public to see my report as well as the attachments that were included. There are a few things that I want to highlight. So I attended the Transportation Authority of Calhoun County, or TAC board workshop last Monday, January 29th. So the TAC board heard from City County Steering Committee that has been working on this effort for over the last 4 years. It was kind of our official handoff to the new authority to do what they've been appointed to do, bring countywide transportation to Calhoun County. They also participated in a public transit 101 training session. So the next step in the process will be to engage or hire a transit consultant to work with the TAC to really assist them in getting this establishing a more efficient transit system in Calhoun. So they are requesting funding support from each of the cities. Right now, the cities are the only one who have opted in to participate in that. So at our next meeting, I will be bringing forth what our share or allocation will be in hiring this consultant, but it's a very important next piece of this project. I know Councilmember Davis, she was appointed by council to serve on this board. She attended as well. So I will be bringing forth that request to you all for consideration and approval. I do want to highlight the Granger waste refuse service. So currently you're allowed 1 free bulk item pickup on the last Friday of the month. This service, it's been an overwhelming demand for this service. So in talking with Granger, they reached out and they are willing to offer that free bulk item pickup every Friday of the month. So residents, you're still only allowed 1 free item to be picked up, but you can call and schedule it for any Friday throughout the month. You don't have to wait until the last Friday. If you have other items, it will be an additional cost that you will have to pay, but I think it shows our residents are taking advantage of this service. So please help spread the word. This will go into effect for this Friday. So they just need to call ahead, get it scheduled, have it out to the curb on time, but now that is a service that will be provided every Friday. Just want to highlight the City of Albion Arts Commission. They will be having an art exhibit in honor of Black History Month. They will be hosting an art exhibit honoring local Black artists in a soul food pop-up. The event will be held at the Isman House from February 22nd to 24th. I did provide you with the flyer. We are working to get that shared on the city's website as well as our Facebook. So please help spread the word and come out and support our local artists.
Can I add something to that?
Yep.
Mrs. Mary Slater and Miss Juanita here are working very diligently to provide a successful event here in the city of Albion. So make sure y'all mark y'all calendars and come out and support their efforts and support the artists as well on those days. Thank you.
I believe you'll be able to purchase art from the local artists, so just come out and it sounds like it's going to be a great event for our community. And then it is tax filing season. So I just want to highlight City of Albion, we do have the local income tax. I did provide you with our general information flyer. We are working with the community ambassador to help get the information out as well. A lot of times our residents don't know that we do have a local income tax. So please help share that information with your constituents. If you have any questions about your income tax, I encourage you to reach out to Eric Tobin. He is our income tax accountant directly. He will be able to answer any questions or help you throughout that process. But I think a big hiccup, we do not accept e-file. So you do have to print off and actually submit your return directly to the city. I think that's what causes a lot of issues for residents, but we're trying to just get the word out there and inform as much as possible. So please help spread the information.
Attorney Harkness.
On that note, I would also encourage you to share that information with your constituents. The finance department will generally send at least 3 letters when someone's delinquent. I believe the third one's certified mail before they send it to my office. I'm creeping up on close to 600 warrants that I've signed for non-payment and non-filing of income tax. So we're at about 7 to 8% of the population of Albion right now has a tax warrant. So.
And if you receive these notices, please come in and speak to our income tax accountant. We're willing to work with you, set up a payment plan, or tell you what documents you may need. But do not just disregard, because that's what gets us in the situation of having to issue the warrant. So we're trying to be proactive and just inform everybody as much as possible. And that is all I have.
Councilmember comments. Councilman Malala.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I remember. First of all, I just want to say, thank you to, the public safety and, Olivet College, for reopening the case of, Henry Lawler, which is my mother's brother. And, she was really excited to hear her first favorite person, call her on the phone, which is our chief. She really adores him, and she has a lot of faith that Albion and the collaboration with Olivet would do the best that they can. So I'm just hoping that the city and the college can just put a little smile on her face. She's been through a lot. She's got 9 siblings. She's the only one left, so it's kind of hard for her. The second thing that I wanted to ask is that Ms. Mayor, when we have to vote on something, can you give us like an overview of what we're voting on before we vote? That's it. Thanks so much.
Okay, I would just like to say, thank you again, Chief Kip. You're in the headlines at this meeting. You're doing a lot of good things. Unfortunately, we had to use the fire alarms, that some of which we distributed back in October and November. There was a fire, in Albion, and the alarms went off, and the family was saved. Some of the property damage is there, but they are expected to move back into their home. She said 10 months to a year. So, but she said the alarms went off, even though they had fallen off the wall, they still went off. So I think that's a good thing. We have more alarms. Mr. Everett bought some and they are housed, I think, in your office, or Carisha knows, Ms. Kendrick knows where they are. So if you need alarms, we can arrange for someone to help install them. Public safety has been trained to install them, but so if people need alarms, we can get them installed. So, and they do save lives. And this was an example of that, one that none of us wish on anyone, but at least if there is a catastrophe, saving lives is very important. The other thing is, last week we did a pit count in Albion, and the pit count really counts. Well, it's a Calhoun County initiative, and it's point in time. And the point in time is to count the unsheltered in the area. Because we are told that Albion has not received the funding as we could have received had we had verification that there are people in our community who don't have appropriate shelter. We did find the gentleman who had been on Albion streets, and I met him, very pleasant young man from Texas. And he said, well, Michigan is no joke. I said, no, compared to Texas, it is not a joke when you're staying on the street. He said he had a sleeping bag, but the sleeping bag really didn't take care of the 0-degree weather. So he is signed up to receive services, and there's funding in Calhoun County. Like I said, we haven't been getting because when we ride around, we may not see the people on the street in January, or they may not be in the parks, but they are still homeless. And we had a count, about 20 or more people came forth with families and children. So hopefully this has been turned into Calhoun County, and we will be counted for those individuals. And so hopefully in the future, with the collaboration from the county and the city and people in the city who know how to find people, because we allow people to sleep on our couches, they can sleep in our basements, or whatever we have to offer is theirs. But someone riding around in the community, not from Albion, may not know that. So hopefully last year was the last year we're going to not have the funding necessary to help the unsheltered.
Keep it doing. Any other council member comments? Also, because Miss Juanita Solis Kidder is with us, brings to mind Men Who Cook. And that is coming up. It's a fundraiser for citizens to beautify Albion. And Juanita, remind me of the day and time.
Yes.
February 11th.
February 11th. And we have our tickets already.
Yeah, we do. So, yeah. All right, so it's Sunday, February 11th, 12:30 to 2 o'clock, First Baptist Church, 980 Haven Road, $10 donation. We have lots of men cooking and father and son teams, which is nice to bring a second generation into this program. We have done it 34 years straight, 3 years off because of COVID. So it would have been our 37th year. And well-attended community event. Get to see Coach Ronnie Parker is going to be playing his guitar. Steve Sabaski will join him with harmonica. So come and join us. Lots of fun.
You can pay at the door, correct?
You pay at the door. I got tickets always. But you can pay at the door. $10 donation. Kids 10 and under is $5. You can't eat for $10.
Yeah. And again, funds go to citizens.
Citizens Beautify Albion, the flowers, the planters.
Yes.
Ranches, gardens, all the stuff that we do. And we're always looking for volunteers. Because we're getting a little mature.
Not at all.
Yeah, before we close, I just want to say thank you to Pastor Amos and Pastor Brown for giving donations and allowing the pit count and services to be, they served dinner, and then at the high school, there was breakfast, but we did have people to join in, and those two churches were very helpful.
Wonderful.
And Mr. Bonner telling people what to do.
Do I have a motion to excuse Councilman French?
So move.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I went from mess to do this for our study session, so I think we're all in agreement. There's excused absence for study session as well. No. Awesome. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned, 8:45 PM.
Paula, are you trying to sort of, something that service that?